everyone, welcome to episode 14 of Brewer Magazine, the video blog. I'm your host and the publisher of Brewer Magazine, Tyler Montgomery. As you can tell, got a little shaking going on today. It means I've got something new in my office, and that's my standing desk. So I finally get to stand up and spend a little bit more time as opposed to sitting. I think I've been sitting way too much for the last 10 years, so I felt like this might be a good change, both mentally and it's supposed to be healthier for you. But regardless, I recommend getting one if you feel like you're starting to spend a lot more time in your office than you are actually in the brew house. Brewers themselves, they spend a lot of time on their feet, which is totally fine. But, if you start finding yourself in that office a little bit longer than normal, maybe it's time for you to grab a standing desk, at least so you can, stretch those legs and get moving and start thinking a little bit more. So you're going to notice I'm going to move around a little bit more because I have the freedom to. But what this entire blog or video blog is supposed to be about is something that I spend a ton of time talking with brewers and our advertisers about on a regular basis. Being a business-to-business publication, one of the things I like to do from time to time is somehow connect the two. And this is something I think really does connect the two. It's understanding sales and marketing. Some of you all have phenomenal sales teams. Some of you all have phenomenal marketing teams. Some of you have phenomenal both. But in a lot of situations, what we discover is a lack of understanding of the difference between sales and marketing. We also find that a lot of marketing people we talk to are getting pressure from their sales team, where their efforts should be assisting them more than they are, and vice versa. So you get, your top level people, most of you guys, the owners of these breweries, you're finding out, you're reaching out to your marketing team. You're like, well, our marketing efforts aren't really giving us the sales that we're looking for. And then the sales team is coming back to the marketing team and saying, you're not helping us enough. And the marketing team then goes to the sales team and says, your sales aren't helping our marketing efforts, and we're getting a lot of pressure. So when you start developing the pressure, you stop coming up with really good ideas and good strategies, and I think that can be a really big issue. So I want to cover a couple of things that we hear a bunch, and what the issue is with the advertising and the marketing disagreements, or the sales and marketing disagreements. So the first thing that we get a lot is, a question of, why didn't we get sales from our ad? Well, there's a couple of things. Advertising is a really cool, there's a lot of different avenues. You've got your social media, you've got your print, your digital, your web, your podcasts, your TV, your radio. There's so many different avenues. Your billboards, everything. There's so many opportunities for actual advertising. I would even say there's a traditional method and a new method. I think you have to utilize so many different methods in terms of advertising. But advertising is also cool because it has a couple of different outcomes. You can have brand advertising, which, when you're driving down the road and you see a McDonald's sign up on a billboard, a lot of times that's branding. You see it, 4 or 5 times before you hit the exit where the McDonald's actually is. You've been thinking about this for probably good 10 to 20 miles. You're starting to get a little hungry. Off you go, and then you go eat the McDonald's. So that's kind of one of the ways that you can do that. The other side of marketing is actually trying to promote your sales. So that'd be a call to action. Call us for 15% off. Mention Brewer Magazine and get 15% off. Different strategies like that. Mention Brewer Magazine and we'll give you something free. These are different strategies that we try and work with a lot of our clients. And, a lot of people will say free is a good strategy because people don't always expect free. However, when you offer something at a discounted rate, people then expect a discounted rate all the time. So, but with that, what I was saying with the, why didn't we get sales from our ad? It depends on what your ad was trying to do. Advertising doesn't necessarily always equate to sales, which is also the difference between sales and marketing. Marketing develops an ad and implements the ad with the advertising company, the publishing company, the billboard company. Regardless, they've implemented. Now it's time to make action. If you don't make the calls, you don't make the emails, You don't try and reach out to the clients, going to the breweries, or trying to reach out to your wholesalers, your distributors, your pubs and your bars. You're not going to make those sales. Just because somebody knows that you exist doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make the sale. Most sales are person-to-person interactions. It's keeping in touch with people. It's an ongoing trying to understand what somebody wants from you, and building a relationship. People buy from people they like. That's something that just goes into every sales book that you're ever going to see. And it's the truth. It's nothing can be more true than building relationships with people. It will help your sales. Advertising on one side is the connection when you make that relationship. All of a sudden you walk into the door, you're like, "Hey, I'm so and so," and they look at you and they go, "Oh, I know you guys. I've seen you guys. I've seen your advertising. It's good to finally meet you." So you start talking, and then that's where the sale takes place. The marketing and the advertising is the open door, so that when you make that phone call or you make that visit, they already know who you are. That's the biggest purpose, and understanding that, I think, will help clear up a lot of the air in your meetings, in your offices, and in conference calls going down. The other thing, the next one that we always run across is, why don't people know who we are when our sales reps call? What I find most times when people do this, they'll say things like, "We've advertised in the past, but it didn't help us with our sales." Well, did you have a sales team? Were they trying to reach out to these bars and these customers? Did they also try and follow up, or were you just hoping that the advertiser or the person would see the advertisement and make the call? That's usually where we get a disconnect, because we don't have the sales and marketing working together. We end up having one person saying, "We're going to implement the money, we're going to implement the advertising, and we're just going to hope for the best." Sales and marketing is an active verb. You have to go after it every single day. But putting that, like I said before, when you put the advertising out there, that's when you make that phone call, you make that visit, and people all of a sudden know who you are. And that's the benefit. So why didn't somebody know when our reps called? Well, do you advertise? Do you advertise in the right places? Because if you're trying to reach a hyper local market, but you're in a national publication, that's going to be difficult. If you are, advertising, you want to be hyper local, but you're in, say, the next city's newspaper because you think everybody in your city is getting that newspaper as well, that's not necessarily the right thing. Also, it could be your social strategy. Do you know that you're hitting the right demographic? Do you know that you've checked off the city and the area that you're trying to reach? The last thing I would say is maybe you're just not putting out your efforts the right way. Are you spending a lot of time doing one-offs, seeing what thing's going to work? Advertising takes time. If you want to see results, you have to commit to people, to the companies that you're working with. You have to commit to more than just one to see what happens. You put one out in there and you do a small little ad to see what's going to happen. I hear this all the time. You're not going to get the results that you want. If you want to know exactly how this is going to help your company, you need to commit. You need to commit to the budget, commit to advertising, and then actively get out there and sell. Just put the money in your budget at the beginning of the year, implement the advertising, and then go to town on sales. Make those calls, make those emails. People are going to know who you are. Say you may have seen our ad in such and such newspaper. You may have seen our ad on such and such billboard going down, I-75 or whatever. You need to use these things to your advantage and figure out the best way to make the correlation. The next thing we hear a lot of is, I thought the trade show would provide more leads. Trade shows are great. It gives you that great time where you can get right face to face with somebody, you get to talk to them, you get to shake their hand, and you really get that energy, and there's just a lot of hype, especially in craft brewers. With the Craft Brewers Conference, there's just so much hype, and there's so much excitement around these trade shows. But the one thing that we always hear, like I said, why didn't we get more leads from the trade show? Trade shows are a one-time thing. You know how many booths are going to be at this trade show. You know how many people you're going to talk to. So when you talk to that many people, if you did that on a regular basis, how would you ever remember anybody from a day to day? There's just no way. These brewers go back, they've got recipes in their head, they've listened to how many seminars, and they're ready to do implementation. And then you make a phone call, or you're hoping they'll call you when they're ready because they said they would, but they don't, and then you're throwing it back on the trade show. It's not the trade show's fault. That's where the advertising comes in. If you're just going to put your money in on the trade show, you're not going to do yourself a service. Because when you put yourself in the trade show, if you don't do continuing advertising after that, people are going to forget who you are. Now, let's say, for example, you go to a trade show. Let's say you go to the Craft Brewers Conference, and then you come out of this and say you're sitting around and all of a sudden you flip open a magazine and you're looking at, let's say you see an ad for a brew house. Oh, you remember you talked to those people. You're more likely to make that phone call. It's the same thing if somebody's at if you're pouring beer at a beer fest and somebody has your beer and like, oh, it was really good. They just had, 20, 25, 30, maybe 40 beers or tasted beers that day. So you're hoping that they're going to remember your beer when they go into their liquor store the next day. That's one of those things I hear a lot of brewers will do is because they don't want to go that traditional marketing method. Yeah, but if they don't ever see you again, it's going to take them a while to remember what beer it was. Their friend's going to say, well, what was the best beer that you had at that beer fest? Oh, I don't know, man. We just had a great time. That's how you always hear these things. Because you're there, you're drinking, you're having fun with your friends, you're partying a little bit, and next thing you know, you can't remember, if you had a really good beer, you may not even remember the last beer you had. And so that's why you have to continually market to your demographic, market to people in that surrounding area that may have attended that beer fest, and you want to make sure that you can touch base with them regularly. So whether that's in a local craft beer focused publication, if that's social media strategy, if you've watched any of my blogs, I'm going to say do it all, because doing it all is where you're going to get the most results. Lastly, let's go over to the last thing, and there are a million of these, but let's focus on some of the ones that we hear regularly. Why aren't our customers liking us on Facebook? It depends on what you're looking for. So, Facebook, do you want the likes? Do you want people to, email you from it? It's the same thing like I said on the first question. Why didn't we get sales from our ad? Depends on what your ad asks. Are you just trying to brand? Do you just want people to know who you are? If that's the case, then you're going to use some type of really cool imagery. You're going to try and get them to know who you are using verbiage like, hey, let's see if we can think of one. If Brewery X is trying to get people, check out our new Kolsch, things like that. You have a nice image and a nice beer picture, or maybe it shows the can. People are like, ooh, and they're going to hit they like that post. That could be a boosted post, even if it's, a like, maybe trying to get page likes. They all operate a little bit differently. But it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you want people to be aware that you have a new beer, that's cool, but you're not going to get the page likes from that. You're going to get people recognizing that they saw that post. Now, you want the page likes, you're going to have to go through another system with Facebook to get the page likes. And you're going to have to do a call to action. Hey, we're a new brewery. Come check us out. Like our page. You're going to have to tell people, like our page. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. These are the different things. Like our page. Continually say, like our page. These are things that when people see it, oh, like their page. So if I click here, I'm going to immediately like the page, and I'm going to follow this page. And it's going to tell me different things and different updates about what's going on with this brewery that's just opened down the street from my house. Otherwise, I'm just going to click the post because I like their imagery. I like the Kolsch can that they just put out. This is fantastic. Now all of a sudden, you're not really getting constant updates because you like the sponsored post, and now you're not reaching people because you didn't grow your Facebook fan base. You just kind of created some traction. The traction's good, but it's not necessarily long term of what you're looking to accomplish. So anyways, what you want to do is you want to focus on telling people what you want to do. It goes back to the very first point that I made in this video. Why didn't people get sales from our ads? Why aren't people responding to our ads? How do you want them to respond? Do you just want them to know that you're a company? Do you just want them to know that you're a brewery? Do you just want them to know that you put out a new beer? Do you want them to buy the beer? Tell them to buy the beer. That's what you do in your ad. Tell them, go buy this beer. It's a such and such, such and such. It's so much ABV. It has so much the hop characteristics and the flavor profile and yada, yada, yada. Tell them these things, but tell them to go buy it. That's number one. Tell them to go buy it. If you want them to contact you or visit your brewery, say, come visit our brewery. We are at such and such street, such and such city in the zip code. This is what you have to do if you want people to do what you want them to do. If you want, somebody to email you, say, email us at, and then give your email address. These are simple things that you need to do, but I know when you think about it, you're like, let's put together an ad. You want it to look pretty. You want to get all the information together. You want to, say everything you want to say. Say you want to you're doing branding, but you want people to recognize who you are and what you are and who your background is. And these are the things that you're going to put together. So you're going to put an ad, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be this tall and this wide, and it's going to have great imagery of your logo and the brew house, and then it's going to have all this information on the founders of the brewery. I mean, how much are you going to read? You're reading the magazine because the magazine has content. If you want to get something across, and you just want to be a brand, use big imagery, eliminate as many words as you possibly can. If you want to get something across and you want to tell somebody to do it, tell them in as few words as possible. Expect that you're going to try and get them to do what you want them to do and consistently present this message. If you want to do this, do it over a quarter. Do it over half of a year. Then maybe switch. Maybe you do branding half the year. Then you do a call to action half the year. Don't mix and match this stuff. Try and do it for a long period of time. Check out what type of results you got and then switch. Don't be sending mixed messages to people. In one issue you do, say, branding, and then the next one you're going to do email us. Don't do that. Just try sticking with one theme and then switch. Don't, like I said, mix and match. I hate to say this over and over, but just don't do it. Now, one thing you can do if you want to do two things at once, in the social strategy, you can always do the page likes and the, just the branding piece as well. Boosted posts, I say boost posts as much as possible because you can boost posts. You can throw in hyperlinks in there so people will be more likely to go to your website and learn more about your company. You can do things like, hey, click here and go learn more about our company. It'll take them to the About page. Go check out our new beers, and it takes you to the new, your beer profiles on your website. That'll give you great hits on your website. But it has a purpose. So that's kind of the whole theme. You just want to have a purpose behind what you're doing. If you start pushing these things, start pushing the contact us and things like that, you're gonna get a better result from your advertising. People will actually reach out and eliminate some of the legwork for you. But as I said, once you implement this, it's marketing and sales, not just marketing or sales. So you have to implement and then you have to attack. And you need to go forward, you have to make the calls, you have to make the visits, you have to be face-to-face, you have to build relationships. The advertising will work if you let it. But if you don't do the sales, you'll never close another one. So this is the biggest thing I want you all to take away from this. I've been going on and rambling a little too long for this, but what I really want you to understand is there's sales and there's marketing. They're two different things. You need to understand that as a business owner. You need to figure out better ways that you can instruct your sales team on interacting with your clients, and you need to work with your marketing and sales team to understand what you want out of your branding, your advertising, and things along those lines. So, sorry I took so long, guys. I think this is an extremely important topic. We could go on for days on this thing, and we'll probably do a couple more in the future on marketing and sales. Maybe we'll split them up and do some sales and marketing strategies. But I really wanted to just kind of touch base on, marketing and sales, because we're getting into budget time and people, forget how important these things are. So anyhow, I hope you all are having a great day. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments section. Hit subscribe, and we'll get moving on this, and I'll try and help you guys as much as possible. Hope you have a good day. Cheers.